Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win. We're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we are taking a look at Raiment of 1,000 Storms set armor. So here it is, without further ado. 2-piece bonus. Your spirit generators have 25% increased attack speed and 400% increased damage. 4-piece bonus. Dashing Strike spends 75 spirit, but refunds a charge when it does. 6-piece bonus. Your spirit generators increase the weapon damage of Dashing Strikes to 60,000% for 6 seconds, and Dashing Strike increases the damage of your spirit generators by 9,000%. So we're mostly going to be using a full set of Raiment of 1,000 Storms, but we're also going to be using Captain Crimson. 6,000 life per second, reduces cooldown of all skills by 20%, reduces all resource costs by 20%. 3-piece bonus. Damage dealt is increased by your percentage of cooldown reduction. Damage taken is reduced by your percentage of cost reduction. That's where you want to prioritize some of that's for particular build. We're also going to be using Rondel's Locket as a placeholder. Spirit guards, very important. Spirit generators reduce your damage taken by 9% for 3 seconds. Conventional elements. City and Ring of the Zodiac. We're going to be using for the weapon Shenlong Fist because it goes perfect with this. 2-piece, the damage of your spirit generators is increased by 2% for each point of spirit you have. When reaching maximum spirit, all damage is increased by 350%, but you no longer passively regenerate spirit, and 65 spirit is drained every second until you run out of spirit. But it's very helpful because obviously this is a spirit generator dashing strike build for all intents and purposes. For the skills, we have the 100 Fists, a Stimulation, Crippling Wave, Mangle, Epiphany, Desert Shroud. We're going to use Mantra of Salvation, Agility, Cyclone Strike, Implosion, and Dashing Strike, Radius. For the passives, Ultricity, Harmony, Exalted Soul, Ease the Initiative, Incarnate Cube, Flying Dragon, Depth Diggers, and Ring of Royal Grandeur. What my Paragon looks like. For the Flower, Broken Crown, Flavor of Time, Nemesis Bracers. Everything else is just kind of an afterthought. For the purpose of this showcase, we are going to do a Greater of 60 and a Greater of 70. This armor is basically a F-tier, bottom-tier type of armor, so it does not perform very well at high Greater Rifts, which is why we are doing this. There are better options, obviously, that being the starter set for the season, which is Ina's Mantra, which is considered the S-tier build, or Pattern's Justice, for that matter. So I will walk you through how you can use this armor somewhat effectively on low-tier Greater Rift. So first thing you want to do basically is once you get into the Greater Rift, you either want to Dashing Strike or automatically go with your Way of the 100 Fist Crippling Wave. So basically damage rotations are going to look mostly like this. You want to go Cyclone Strike, Way of the 100 Fist, and then you will want to use a Dashing Strike. Then you pretty much are going to rinse, recycle, repeat that option every once in a while if you have a lot of enemies coming towards you, or you see that your spirit is burning out too quickly before you're able to generate it back. What you will want to do is activate the Epiphany. That way you take less damage and you'll be able to attack targets significantly quickly. The extra added benefit to this is whenever you Dashing Strike while you're in Epiphany or use your Way of the 100 Fist, you will teleport towards the closest enemy nearest to you, which will help you be able to keep your Massacre bonuses going tremendously. Now, in terms of optimization, what would you particularly want to do with this armor? Well, for starters, I would say it's in your benefit to, first and foremost, since we're using Captain Crimson, at 8.0% cooldown reduction wherever possible. The more cooldown reduction you have, the more damage you would be able to deal, which is very important for this type of armor, which already kind of has a struggle trying to perform at higher Greater Rift. Next thing, 8.0% resource cost reduction wherever possible. The more resource cost reduction you have, the less damage that you take, which will allow you to climb higher Greater Rifts between those two stats. Further optimization on your helm, crit hit chance 6.0%. On your gloves, crit hit chance 6.0%, crit hit damage 50%, and attack speed at least 8.0%. All 3 of those stats on your glove will mean the world of difference as to whether you can climb 10 more Greater Rifts or even maybe 15 Greater Rifts with this armor. Further optimization, wherever you can power up your Way of the 100 Fists to 15%, definitely do so. Wherever you can power up your Dashing Strike to 15%, definitely do so as well, as both of those things are very, very important for this particular armor to do well on the lower level spectrum. Now, keep in mind, this is not an S-tier armor. Again, that is Ina's Mantra, which is the starter set for Season 26 for the month. Subsequently, you could also use the Patterns of Justice Tempest Rush build, as that's an S-tier armor as well, although Ina's Mantra pretty much is devastating the metagame right now because it's very very powerful, particularly the Warrior Ally build when it comes to Echoing Nightmare. Now, in terms of further optimization for this armor, you want all pieces of your gear to be Ancient Legendary, that being the gold border, or Primal Ancient Legendary, that being the red border. In order to get access to Primal Ancient Legendaries, you have to clear Greater Rift 70 solo in Season. If you're playing non-seasonal character, any non-seasonal character that has cleared a Greater Rift 70 solo will give Primal Ancient Legendary drops access to all the other non-seasonal characters as well. So you only have to do it with one character in there. But if you're playing seasonal character, your seasonal character must clear a Greater Rift 70 in order for you to see Primal Ancient Legendary drop. So if you have an Ancient Legendary, Primal Ancient Legendary piece of gear, what you want to do to further optimize it is augment it with the Kunai's Q's recipe. Basically, you want a legendary gem that you're not using in your build for around level 80 in value to 130, preferably between 110 and 130 is the way you want to go with it. But usually for underperforming armors, you're probably not going to use any of those gems whatsoever. So for in terms of augmentation, again, you want to put in Kunai's Cube, Ancient Legendary, Primal Ancient Legendary piece of gear, augment it with a legendary gem, so that way you can increase the attack stat tremendously, which will help you, again, clear probably another 10 or 15 Greater Rifts, depending on how much strength. Obviously, because the Monk class in particular uses Dexterity, you want to have max Dexterity rolls on all pieces of your gear as well, just to set you up for a pretty good endgame. Now, in terms of legendary gems that you should be using, Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trap, and a Simplicity Strength, because Simplicity Strength works tremendously well with this particular build, because remember, we're using our Spirit Generation, which is our basic attack. For the Rift Guardian, basically what you want to do is, if you can, Dashing Strike into it, and then you're just going to go away the 100 Fists. Then you want to activate your Epiphany so you take less damage, and then just constantly punch the enemy. Eventually, it will implode as Bane of the Stricken and Bane of the Trap stats start to accumulate, and the stacks and everything. Keep that in mind. So very important to run Simplicity Strength, Bane of the Trap, and Bane of the Stricken on this particular build to be able to perform particularly well. Keep in mind, again, this is not an S tier armor. This is actually bottom tier for the Monk, probably the least used set armor for the Monk class. So it's definitely something that could get some treatment of like Legacy of Reiko. So for this particular run, Greater Rift 60, Torment 13 difficulty, 4 minutes and 12-second clear time. It won't be any shorter than that. It depends basically on the layout of the dungeons and everything of the sort. So keep that in mind. Now, in terms of tier list, when it comes to the Echoing Nightmare, this armor is not going to do very well at Echoing Nightmare. In fact, I would say this is one of the armors that has the worst time trying to do an Echoing Nightmare run, based on the fact that, similar to the Uliana's Exploding Palm build, this armor suffers from the fact that it has to constantly up close, in case in point there, in front of its enemies to do damage, which leaves it very susceptible to primarily AoE effects. Now, if you're not familiar, Echoing Nightmare, which is the endgame feature for the season of Season 26 of Diablo, and it's going to be actually an endgame feature for the rest of Diablo. It's a new endgame, basically, what I'm saying. It is going to perform pretty underperforming because it has to attack up close and personal. Echoing Nightmare, you're basically fighting, it's horde bound. You're fighting waves and waves and waves of enemies, trying to get higher up in the levels. As you go higher up in levels of waves of enemies, there are a lot of enemies that have AoE effects, that being explosions, laser effects, acid pulls, you name it, pretty much that's there. So as this armor is trying to pull enemies in to do damage, you're probably going to have a lot of things exploding. And although our Dashing Strike with Epiphany gives us some sense of mobility, the chances are you're going to teleport right into a target that has a target near it that's exploding and die. So I do not recommend this armor whatsoever for Echoing Nightmare. I wouldn't even recommend it for Greater Rift pushing or anything of the sort. It is very, very underperforming. It needs kind of a rework, similar to the Legacy of Reiko set armor for the Barbarian, which recently got an amazing rework, similar to, also remember, Firebird, which was underperforming and went back. This armor, along with another armor, definitely needs to be looked at, so that they can bring it kind of up to snuff with all the other type of armors. The other problem with this particular armor is it does everything that Uliana set armor does, but worse. So if you have to go with a Spirit Regenerator type of build, why wouldn't you just go with the Uliana set, where you get the Exploding Palms for free and the 7-sided strike and everything of the sort? I feel like devs didn't really grasp the concept of Dashing Strike. Now, let's say if Dashing Strike did something else in this for the 4 or 6 piece bonus, maybe then you get a little bit more value out of it. But the problem is, like, Dashing Strike really on its own it's not really going to do too much for this particular build. Yeah, you get the attack stat when then you go into your Way of the 100 Fists, but there's not much else for it to really give it. It lacks a, for all intents and purposes, everybody, it lacks a uniqueness to it, kind of its own type of identity as to what exactly it is that it should be doing. I feel like there should be more done to give it uniqueness, at least in terms of the dashing strike aspect of this particular build. Moving forward, though, something that I definitely would like to remind you of while we are going through the rest of this Greater Rift, the fact that I am recently started Twitch streaming as well. I'm in fact a Twitch affiliate over on Twitch. Every once in a while, we have played Diablo 3 on Twitch, as well as Diablo 2 game. I don't always play Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, but with obviously Diablo Immortal, which is going to be coming out in less than a couple of days from now, we're probably going to be playing that on stream, as well as a couple of other things. It's definitely very Diablo-esque at the moment that we're going to be doing, so definitely make sure to follow us over on our Twitch account, that being twitch.tv/Dreadscape Gaming. We would love to have most of our followers that enjoy our guides and contents over there on the channel as well. We have a pretty good massacre bonus going here. We're going to keep using this just to get able to get some Paragon. Again, if you're going to go for Monk, I would recommend using either Ina's Mantra or the Patterns of Justice set armor, because as you can see, this is basically Greater Rift 70, and we are struggling significantly here trying to be able to clear this particular attack target. It's just the armor that cannot perform very well, as it just doesn't have enough tools in its kit to be able to do effective play. Rift Guardian, we're going to do this again, so we'll go Dashing Strike, we'll go Epiphany, then we're going to go Way of the 100 Fists, and we're going to constantly keep attacking it. Every once in a while, we'll go Dashing Strike again to increase the amount of attack stat, and then go Way of the 100 Fists, and eventually we pop it. As you saw, we're struggling there with a Rift Guardian that's in basically Torment 15 difficulty, so the higher up you go after this, pretty much you're going to get squashed. You're very squishy armor on top of that. There are just so many better options, guys, which is why I tend to try to avoid covering these underperforming armors until like the end of my seasonal guides, because there's just stuff that I don't want to throw out there very quickly, because there's stuff that you could use this for funsies, but again, it's got pretty much its skill ceiling is going to be Torment 13, and after that you can't really do too much else with it. Okay, so let us get rid of some of this loot here. Let's see if we get anything worth decent or being able to use it here. Unfortunately, there's not really much good loot here. Let's pick up the rest of this, and we'll talk to Urshi if we can. And we will just level a gem. Again, for this particular build, you want Simplicity, Strength, Bane Trap, and Bane Stricken. You want to max those out as fast as possible so that you can perform at very high Greater Rifts. So keep that in mind, everybody. Let's talk to Orderic and see the clear time, probably 6-7 minutes. Nope. Okay. Greater Rift 70, Torment 15 difficulty, 4 minutes and 24 seconds clear time. Still pretty good. Further optimization, you probably get to 2 or 3 minutes clear, but why would you do that when you could just play Ina's Mantra and optimize that, or Patterns of Justice set arm? Anyway, that's going to do it for today's Diablo 3 video. As always, a like on this video is greatly appreciated. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, definitely consider doing so, as it helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe to us or follow us on twitch.tv/Dreadscape Gaming for more Diablo 3 content as well.